The galaxy's misunderstanding. In the vast stretches of space, far beyond the reach of human imagination, an alien empire ruled with an iron fist. This empire had conquered countless worlds, bringing every planet under its control. The beings who made up this empire were powerful, advanced, and unyielding. They believed no species could stand in their way. To them, Earth was just another insignificant planet, one of the many in the galaxy. They saw humanity as weak, primitive, and defenseless. Little did they know, they were terribly wrong. The leaders of the alien empire sat in their grand war room, looking over the latest intelligence reports. Their eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the data with detached ease. Earth was a primitive planet with no real technology. The humans, with their limited resources, had never even left their solar system. The Empire had watched them for years, and it had concluded that the time had come to conquer them. Earth's fate had already been sealed, and it was nothing more than a matter of when, not if. "They are helpless," one of the commanders said with a laugh. "Their weapons are outdated, their cities are small, and they have no real defenses to speak of. We'll crush them without even breaking a sweat." The Emperor, sitting at the head of the table, nodded in agreement. His face was stern, yet there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. "Prepare the fleet. Earth will fall in a matter of days. And when we take it, we will strip them of their resources and turn their world into another colony of the Empire." The commanders began to make their preparations. Ships were readied, soldiers trained, and strategies devised. To the alien empire, this was a simple conquest. There was nothing special about Earth, nothing worth fearing. And the humans, they were nothing more than insects to be crushed under the weight of the Empire's power. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on as usual. Humans went about their daily routines, unaware of the massive forces preparing to invade their world. No one could have imagined what was coming. Humanity's greatest strength was its ignorance. No one knew that the galaxy had already decided their fate. But there was one person who knew something wasn't right. Dr. Evelyn Torres, a renowned scientist and expert in extraterrestrial studies, had been watching the stars for years. She had always suspected that humans were not as insignificant as the galaxy believed. Her research into alien civilizations had led her to uncover strange signals from deep space. They were faint at first, barely noticeable, but over time, they grew stronger. There was something out there, something big, and it was moving toward Earth. Dr. Torres had raised her concerns many times, but no one took her seriously. "It's just space noise," they said. "We don't have the technology to communicate with alien races, let alone understand their intentions." Her warnings were dismissed as the ramblings of an eccentric scientist, but Dr. Torres knew better. She had spent years studying alien cultures and technologies, and she could feel that something was coming. It wasn't just a feeling, it was the data she had gathered, the patterns she had observed. Something was heading toward Earth, and it wasn't friendly. She couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was being watched. Every time she looked at the stars, it felt as though an unseen presence was out there, observing them. Her colleagues told her to stop obsessing over these signals, but Dr. Torres couldn't let it go. There was a hidden truth in the stars, one that would change everything. But time was running out. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. The alien empire, believing Earth was defenseless, made its move. The fleet arrived in orbit, its ships dark and ominous against the backdrop of the stars. It was a sight that struck fear into the hearts of anyone who saw it, yet no one on Earth knew what was about to happen. The alien ships began to descend, their weapons powering up as they prepared for the invasion. In the capital city, a sense of calm prevailed. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the enormous threat above. The government received reports of strange movements in the skies, but no one took them seriously. "Just some weather balloons or space debris," officials said. But the reports kept coming, more urgent each time. Still, there was no panic. People laughed off the idea of an alien invasion. It seemed too unbelievable. However, Dr. Torres was not laughing. She had been monitoring the signals from deep space, and her worst fears were now becoming reality. The invasion had begun. She had been right all along, but now it was too late to stop it. The aliens were here, and Earth was in their sights. As the alien ships descended, their weapons fired, vaporizing entire buildings in a single blast. Cities began to crumble as the invaders unleashed their power. The humans were caught off guard, their defenses non-existent. It was chaos. The sky above was filled with destruction, and the ground below was consumed by flames. Panic spread quickly as the people of Earth scrambled to escape, but there was nowhere to hide. The aliens were everywhere. The alien commanders watched from their ships as the humans ran in fear. They couldn't help but smile at the sight. "Pathetic," one of them muttered. "These creatures are nothing more than dust in the wind. We'll have them kneeling before us in no time." But as the chaos unfolded, something unexpected happened. Dr. Torres, who had been trying to warn the government, realized that there was something the aliens had overlooked. While their weapons were powerful, they were not invincible. There was a way to fight back, a way to challenge their empire. But it would take more than just a few brave soldiers. It would take a genius. And that's when Dr. Torres made a decision. She would not stand idly by. She would not let humanity fall without a fight. She would use every ounce of her knowledge and every bit of her genius to change the course of this war. The galaxy may have underestimated humanity, but they were about to learn a very important lesson. The humans were not as helpless as they believed. Dr. Evelyn Torres sat alone in her small lab, her eyes glued to the screen in front of her. The world outside was in chaos, but inside, she was focused, determined. The images of the alien fleet burning cities to the ground haunted her, but there was no time for fear. The Earth was under attack, and humanity needed a savior. She had always known that one day, something like this would happen. The stars had always whispered of dangers beyond their solar system, but no one had believed her. Now, Earth was paying the price for their ignorance. The reports came in faster than she could read them. Major cities were in ruins, entire populations wiped out in the blink of an eye. The alien ships hovered over the Earth like dark vultures, casting long shadows over the land. The government's response was slow and uncoordinated. Humanity's military, with all its modern weapons, was no match for the invaders. The aliens were too advanced, too powerful. It was clear that Earth had no chance unless something drastic happened. Dr. Torres knew she couldn't wait for the world's leaders to figure out a plan. She was no politician, no military strategist, but she was something far more important: a scientist. She understood things that others couldn't even begin to grasp. For years, she had been studying alien technology in secret, piecing together fragments of data she had collected from various sources. And now, she realized she had stumbled upon something that could save them all, a weapon that could stop the alien invaders in their tracks. The device she had been working on in her spare time was no accident. It was based on the alien technology she had been studying for years. But it wasn't just their weapons or their ships that fascinated her. It was their weakness, the one thing they had overlooked. Dr. Torres had discovered an anomaly, a hidden flaw in their systems that could be exploited. It was a long shot, but it was humanity's only hope. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, her mind racing as she entered the final set of commands into the computer. The machine before her hummed to life, and the screen flashed with a series of numbers and codes. She had done it. She had unlocked the key to the aliens' power, and now it was time to strike back. But she wasn't naive. She knew she couldn't do this alone. The problem was, no one would believe her. How could they? They had dismissed her warnings, ridiculed her theories, and now they were paying the price. But the situation had grown so dire that she didn't have time for pride or anger. She needed allies, and she needed them fast. Dr. Torres quickly contacted a few trusted individuals, scientists, engineers, and military experts who had always supported her research, though few of them had understood its full potential. She briefed them on the situation, on the alien threat, and on her plan. To her surprise, they didn't hesitate. They believed her. "We have to move quickly," she said. "The aliens think they have already won, but we can turn the tide. We can use their own technology against them. It's the only way." Her team of experts was small, but they were brilliant. They worked day and night, designing a weapon that could infiltrate and disable the alien ships. The key was to focus on their communication systems. The aliens, in their arrogance, had underestimated Earth's technological potential, thinking that humanity had no real understanding of their systems. They were wrong. As the days passed, the team made incredible progress. Dr. Torres and her team developed a prototype for a device that could disrupt the alien ship systems, causing them to shut down. The weapon would send a signal directly to the alien fleet, interfering with their advanced communication network, rendering their ships blind and defenseless. It wasn't a complete solution, but it would be enough to give humanity a fighting chance. Meanwhile, the situation on Earth worsened. The alien forces were relentless, their attacks becoming more brutal. Humanity's cities continued to fall, and the death toll climbed higher with each passing hour. The world's governments were scrambling to organize a resistance, but it was too late. The alien empire had already proven their power. Dr. Torres knew they were running out of time. She could see the desperation in the eyes of her team, in the faces of the people she passed on the streets as she went to and from her lab. Fear had taken root in the hearts of humanity, and with good reason. There was no escape from the alien invaders, but Dr. Torres wasn't about to let fear win. She had spent her entire career searching for a way to protect Earth, and now she had found it. In the depths of her lab, she worked tirelessly, ensuring that the device would be ready. There were setbacks, of course. There were moments when she thought they might not make it. The pressure was immense, and the stakes were higher than anything she had ever imagined. But every time she felt like giving up, she remembered the faces of the people who were counting on her. They didn't know it, but she was their last hope. One evening, as the sun set behind the ruined skyline of the city, Dr. Torres and her team gathered around the final version of the device. It was a simple-looking piece of technology, but it held the potential to turn the tide of the war. They all knew what was at stake. "It's time," Dr. Torres said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We've got one shot at this. We can either give up and let them destroy everything we've worked for, or we can fight back. We can win." The team nodded, ready to face whatever came next. They had worked tirelessly for this moment, and they weren't about to back down now. They had a plan, and for the first time since the invasion began, there was a glimmer of hope. Dr. Torres took a deep breath, looking out over the city she had sworn to protect. The alien fleet was still hovering above, but they didn't know what was coming. Humanity was not as helpless as they had believed. In fact, the universe was about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating Earth. The battle was about to begin. The hours stretched into days as Dr. Torres and her team prepared to launch their desperate plan. The alien invaders, with their overwhelming fleet, were relentless. Cities across the globe lay in ruins, and the planet was on the brink of collapse. Yet, amidst the destruction, a flicker of defiance burned bright in Dr. Torres' heart. Her team had completed the device that could change the course of the war. It was their one chance to turn the tide. The streets outside her lab were quiet. The hum of emergency sirens and distant explosions filled the air. But those sounds had become background noise to the people living through the nightmare. No one could deny the chaos anymore. Humanity's cities were falling one by one, and the survivors had little hope left. Dr. Torres stood in front of a large table in the makeshift command center, surrounded by her small but dedicated team. The device, a complex array of circuitry and alien technology, sat in the center. It was their last hope, their weapon to strike at the heart of the alien fleet. The team had worked non-stop for days, assembling the final pieces of the puzzle. They knew the risks. One mistake, and the weapon would fail, or worse, It could be turned against them. But failure wasn't an option. "We're ready," Dr. Torres said, her voice steady but full of determination. She glanced at each member of her team, searching their faces for any sign of doubt. There was none. They were ready to fight. "We're going to launch the first strike." Her hands hovered over the control panel, hesitating for only a moment. The alien fleet still loomed over the planet, its dark ships blocking out the sun. The invaders had no idea what was about to happen. They believed they had crushed humanity. Now they would learn that Earth's last hope had just begun to rise. Dr. Torres initiated the sequence, and the control panel hummed to life. The weapon activated. It was a device designed to send a powerful disruption signal directly to the alien ships, jamming their communication systems and rendering them vulnerable. The signal would travel through the alien fleet's network, corrupting their command systems and sending their ships into chaos. They would be blinded, confused, and unable to communicate with one another. It was a tactical strike, a way to level the playing field. "Stand by," Dr. Torres instructed as she watched the monitor in front of her. The countdown began. The device was now live, and in just a few moments, the signal would be sent. Her heart raced, but she remained focused. There was no turning back. The world outside her lab seemed eerily silent as the countdown reached its final moments. The alien ships hovered menacingly above, their massive forms casting long shadows over the land. The world's fate rested on what would happen next. If the strike failed, it would mean certain destruction. But if it succeeded, if they managed to disrupt the alien fleet's systems, humanity would have a fighting chance. 3, 2, 1. Dr. Torres whispered. With a press of a button, the signal was launched. The air inside the command center seemed to crackle with tension. For a few moments, nothing happened. Dr. Torres' mind raced, her heart beating faster. Had it worked? Was the device functioning properly? And then it happened. The alien fleet began to shake. Their massive ships, once so confident and imposing, suddenly lurched in the air. The lights on their surfaces flickered, their engines sputtering. The communication channels of the alien ships went silent. A series of strange noises filled the airwaves as the invaders' ships were thrown into disarray. "It worked," one of her team members exclaimed. "We've hit them." Dr. Torres' face broke into a determined smile, but it was brief. This was only the beginning. The aliens had been caught off guard, but the real battle was just starting. As the alien ships scrambled to regain control, Dr. Torres knew they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The disruption signal had worked, but the device wasn't enough to end the invasion. The aliens were still powerful, and they wouldn't go down without a fight. But the odds had shifted. Humanity had bought itself time, and that time would be used to strike back. Outside, the city was still burning. Fires raged across the skyline as survivors hid in underground shelters. But somewhere, deep in the heart of the chaos, a glimmer of hope began to form. Humanity had fought back. For the first time in days, the people of Earth could feel a small sense of victory. "We need to act fast," Dr. Torres said. "The alien fleet will try to recover, but we can't let them. We need to hit them again before they can regain control." Her team quickly set to work. The alien fleet was now in disarray, but they wouldn't stay that way for long. The team had only a small window of opportunity to launch a follow-up attack. They had the element of surprise, but the alien empire would recover soon. Dr. Torres knew that the key to winning this war wasn't just in the technology. It was in humanity's determination. They had a chance to strike a decisive blow, but only if they moved quickly. In the streets outside, the survivors had heard the strange tremors in the air as the alien ships faltered. For a brief moment, the sounds of destruction and fear seemed to pause. People stopped in their tracks, looking up at the sky, unsure of what had just happened. Was it possible that the humans had struck back? Had they fought back against their invaders? Dr. Torres knew that no one would believe it until they saw the next strike, but there was no time to wait for proof. Every second mattered. She and her team had to act quickly. The alien fleet was still there, and they were still dangerous. But the balance had shifted. For the first time, the invaders saw the humans as something more than helpless prey. They saw them as a threat. The follow-up attack was ready. The signal had worked, and the device had proven its worth. Now they needed to fire again, to finish what they had started. And as Dr. Torres prepared for the next move, one thought echoed in her mind. This is only the beginning. The success of the first strike against the alien fleet reverberated across the world. It was a brief moment of hope, a crack in the armor of what had seemed an unbeatable force. Dr. Torres and her team stood in their underground command center, surrounded by screens that flickered with data from the alien fleet. The disruption signal had worked, but they were under no illusion that the battle was won. The aliens were recovering, and fast. "We can't waste any time," Dr. Torres said, her voice low but sharp, as she surveyed the alien fleet's response. "They'll be re-establishing their systems now, and when they do, they'll come after us with everything they've got. We need to hit them harder and faster before they can regroup." Her team nodded in agreement, the weight of the situation pressing down on their shoulders. They had made their first successful move, but the aliens had far more resources, and they were learning quickly. What had seemed like a chance for a decisive victory now felt like a fragile window of opportunity. Every second that passed allowed the alien forces to regain their strength, and that meant that humanity's chance to strike back was slipping away. Dr. Torres turned to her chief engineer, a quiet but brilliant man named Ethan. "Ethan, we need a follow-up strike, something that will disrupt their fleet on a much larger scale. Can we do it?" Ethan was silent for a moment, his fingers tapping nervously on the table as he examined the data streaming across his screen. The team's earlier success had proven that their technology could work, but they still didn't fully understand how far they could push it without risking everything. "I believe we can," Ethan said, his voice steady. "We can amplify the signal, extend its range, and target more ships at once. It'll take everything we've got, but it could blind their entire fleet. If we succeed, they'll be completely vulnerable. But if we fail..." His voice trailed off, leaving the rest unsayed. The risk was enormous. If the second strike failed, they would have no other options left. The aliens would know exactly where they were, and they'd wipe them out in a heartbeat. "There's no turning back," Dr. Torres said. "We have to do this. For Earth." She turned to her other team members, who were working in sync to prepare the follow-up attack. The clock was ticking, and they had little time to waste. The alien fleet was still disoriented, but that wouldn't last long. Dr. Torres knew that the aliens' patience was running out, and when it did, they would retaliate with overwhelming force. "We've got only one chance," Dr. Torres continued. "Once we launch this, we need to follow up immediately with ground forces. The aliens are going to send their best warriors down to the surface, and we can't afford to let them win the battle on Earth." The tension in the room was palpable. There was no denying it. Their plan was risky, but humanity had no other choice but to fight. If they let the alien empire recover and launch a counterattack, it could mean the end of everything. "Set the coordinates," Dr. Torres ordered. "Prepare the launch." Ethan and the rest of the team quickly worked in tandem, entering the coordinates and finalizing the system's parameters. The device they had built was a combination of alien and human technology, a dangerous mix of unknowns. They had no way of knowing exactly what would happen once it was launched. Would it be enough to disrupt the entire fleet? Would it even work at all? "We're ready," Ethan said, wiping sweat from his brow. His hands trembled slightly as he hit the final button, activating the weapon. For a long moment, nothing happened. The team stood still, eyes glued to the monitors. And then the screen flashed. The alien fleet's ships began to tremble. A ripple of energy pulsed outward, and the massive fleet seemed to shudder. The powerful warships began to flicker and lose their formation. Their communications scrambled as the disruption signal overwhelmed their systems. Dr. Torres felt her heart race. It was working. But then, something unexpected happened. The alien ships, now fully aware of the signal's source, began to adapt. The lights on their ships flickered, but they didn't fall completely silent. The aliens were countering. They had anticipated humanity's move and had deployed countermeasures to protect their fleet from such an attack. The alien empire was not as invincible as it had once seemed, but it was far from defeated. "No," Dr. Torres muttered under her breath. "They're adapting too quickly." The signal they had sent was still having an effect, but it was not as powerful as they had hoped. The alien ships had built-in fail-safes, technologies that allowed them to adjust when their systems were disrupted. They had anticipated humanity's counterattack, and they were beginning to neutralize it. "Continue the strike," Dr. Torres commanded. "We can still cause enough chaos. We just need to keep pushing." Her team worked quickly, making adjustments to the system and amplifying the signal again. But as they did, Dr. Torres' mind raced. The aliens were learning faster than they could adapt, and they were getting closer to pinpointing the source of the disruption. They had to act fast. If they couldn't cause enough damage, the alien fleet would regain full control, and that could mean their end. Outside, the sky still darkened with the looming presence of the alien ships. The war was far from over, and humanity's chance to strike back had become a battle of wits. The enemy was ruthless and adaptable, and Dr. Torres knew that she could not afford to fail. The clock ticked down. "We need to hit them now," Dr. Torres said, her voice filled with urgency. "This is it." Her team launched the final adjustment, sending the amplified signal out toward the alien fleet. And this time, it seemed to hit harder. The alien ships faltered again, this time longer. For a moment, it seemed like the tide had truly turned. But Dr. Torres knew this victory was only temporary. The alien empire would not go down easily, and they would not stop until humanity was crushed under their boots. But for now, they had one more moment to breathe, one more chance to rally the world to fight back. "Prepare for ground forces," Dr. Torres said, her eyes fixed on the monitors. "This battle is far from over, but we just gave ourselves a chance." The air inside the underground command center was heavy with tension, and every heartbeat felt louder than the alarms that had started flashing across the monitors as the alien ships began to reposition themselves in orbit, sending new waves of scout ships down toward Earth. Determined to find and destroy the source of the disruption that had weakened them, and Dr. Torres, standing tall despite the exhaustion pulling at her, knew that the real fight was about to begin. Ethan looked up from his console, fear plain on his face, but his voice steady as he said, "They're coming for us. Doctor, hundreds of scout ships scanning every inch of the ground, and we don't have any more tricks left to hide." And for a moment, the weight of their small team's responsibility felt almost too much to bear. Dr. Torres took a deep breath, pushing back the fear, and she said in a firm voice, "We always have one more trick, Ethan. It's called the human spirit, and it's something they still don't understand, because deep inside her, she knew that no matter how advanced the alien empire was, no matter how many fleets they commanded, they could never match the pure stubbornness and determination that lived in the hearts of human beings when they fought for survival. At that very moment, far away from the secret bunker, across ruined cities and shattered landscapes, a new resistance was awakening. Ordinary people, engineers, scientists, soldiers, and even farmers who refused to bow down, gathering in hidden places, building strange weapons, and whispering to each other stories of the attack that had stunned the mighty alien fleet, believing now, for the first time, that victory might not be impossible. In the ruins of old Chicago, a former university professor named Dr. Arun Patel stood atop a broken skyscraper, using a salvaged alien transmitter to rally the underground fighters who had been hiding for months, his voice crackling through broken radios as he said, "If we stand together, we can break them. If one genius like Dr. Torres can bring them to their knees, imagine what thousands of us can do." In the deep deserts of Nevada, where alien patrols rarely ventured, a group of retired mechanics had built a strange machine, cobbled together from old Earth technology and stolen alien parts, a strange metallic beast designed to disrupt the energy shields of the alien ground forces, and they called it the Hammer, swearing to unleash it when the final battle came. Back in the command center, Ethan reported, his voice breaking into the room filled with nervous energy. "Doctor, we're getting transmissions from everywhere. It's not just us anymore. Resistance groups are waking up. They're asking for orders. They're ready to fight." And for the first time in days, real hope flickered in Dr. Torres' heart. She leaned over the console, speaking directly into the ancient communication systems still working after the invasion, and said, "Listen carefully. This is humanity's moment. The aliens think they've broken us, but they don't understand that true power doesn't come from weapons or ships. It comes from people who refuse to surrender." As her words spread across the battered Earth, men and women who had lost everything picked up whatever weapons they had left, strange energy guns taken from fallen aliens, homemade explosives, ancient rifles from forgotten wars, and even sharp pieces of steel torn from the wreckage of old cities, and they began moving toward the gathering points, ready to make their final stand. Meanwhile, the aliens were growing more frustrated and reckless, their commanders barking orders in strange, guttural languages as their scout ships swooped lower and lower, their scanners searching for signs of human technology, unaware that they were flying straight into traps laid by desperate, furious humans who had learned how to fight back with everything they had. Inside the flagship orbiting Earth, the alien warlord Xarth raged against his officers, smashing a table in half with one brutal strike of his armored fist, snarling, "They are nothing. How can they resist us?" But deep down, even he began to feel the cold fingers of fear creeping into his mind, because never before had any conquered world fought back like this. "They adapt too quickly," hissed his second-in-command, a reptilian creature with golden eyes. "They are unpredictable. They are dangerous." And for the first time since the Empire had launched its invasion, the invincible conquerors realized that Earth was not a simple world to break. Back on the ground, Dr. Torres stared at the live feed coming from hidden cameras scattered across the battered cities, men, women, and even children preparing for battle. And she whispered, almost to herself, "We are the hidden power they never saw coming," knowing that the real strength of humanity was not just in one genius mind, but in millions of ordinary hearts beating with stubborn courage. The ground rumbled suddenly as explosions rocked the surface above the bunker. The aliens had found them. The scanners showed dozens of enemy ships descending toward their position, weapons hot and ready, and Ethan shouted, "They're here." Without hesitation, Dr. Torres turned to her team and said, "It's time. Everyone to battle stations. We hold them here. We hold them now. Because if we fall, the whole world falls with us." And as the first alien strike forces began to land, their terrible war cries echoing through the shattered land, humanity's hidden power surged into action, ready to show the universe that no empire, no matter how powerful, could ever break the will of a people who refused to be conquered. The sky above the hidden bunker turned black with smoke and burning debris as alien scout ships opened fire, unleashing deadly beams of energy that tore through the ground, and explosions shook the earth like angry thunder. But deep inside the command center, Dr. Torres stood calm and firm, her eyes locked on the monitors, as she coordinated the defense with a steady hand that inspired everyone around her. Outside, human fighters, dressed in scavenged armor and carrying a mix of alien weapons and homemade explosives, rushed into position, taking cover behind ruined vehicles and collapsed buildings, their faces grim but determined, because they knew this was the moment they had been preparing for, the moment when all their sacrifices would finally mean something. Ethan shouted over the roaring alarms, "Doctor, the first wave is coming fast. 200 units, heavy infantry, shielded transports, and air support." But instead of fear, there was fire in his voice, because he, like everyone else, understood that running was no longer an option, that victory or death were the only paths left. Dr. Torres gave quick, sharp orders, her mind working faster than the alien computers ever could, and within seconds, the traps were activated. Hidden electromagnetic mines buried in the ground exploded under the alien transports, flipping them into the air like toys, while jammers scrambled the alien communications, turning their battle formations into pure chaos. On the edges of the battlefield, strange machines built by desperate human engineers whirred to life, sending powerful shockwaves that shattered the energy shields the aliens had always relied on. And for the first time since landing on Earth, the invaders felt real fear as they realized their technology could no longer protect them. Among the chaos, small human squads moved like shadows, striking with brutal precision, using tactics the aliens had never seen before: hit-and-run attacks, traps hidden in the ruins, feigned retreats leading to deadly ambushes, and every fallen alien weapon was quickly picked up and turned back against its owners. The alien commanders, sitting inside their heavily armored hovercraft above the battlefield, barked out desperate orders, trying to regain control, but it was already too late, because every minute, more and more humans joined the fight, pouring in from hidden tunnels, shattered streets, and even the burning forests nearby, their numbers growing with every passing heartbeat. In one corner of the battlefield, a group of alien elite warriors, taller and stronger than anything the humans had faced before, charged through the ruins with terrifying speed, their heavy blades slicing through concrete and steel. But even they were caught off guard when a young woman named Leah, armed with a captured plasma rifle and the fearless rage of a person who had lost everything, stood her ground and shot the lead warrior right between the eyes, dropping him like a stone. "Fall back!" screamed the alien officers, realizing their finest soldiers were being picked off by what they had once called inferior beings. But the humans gave them no chance to escape, surrounding them, overwhelming them with sheer willpower and brutal ingenuity. High above the battlefield, inside the massive alien flagship orbiting the planet, Warlord Xarth watched in horror as the battle reports came flooding in, showing defeat after defeat, and in a rage, he slammed his fist into the command table, roaring, "This is impossible. They are savages. They should not be able to resist us." But even he knew, deep inside his cold heart, that it was already too late to stop what had begun, because something had awakened on Earth, something stronger than any weapon or any army, the unstoppable power of human unity and human rage. Back at the command center, Dr. Torres leaned over the main console, sending out a new message to every fighter across the globe, her voice cutting through the noise and the fear like a blade. "They think they can still win. Show them they are wrong. This is our planet, and today we take it back." The words spread like fire, igniting every fighter's soul, and across the world, other battles exploded into life. In the broken streets of Paris, in the flooded ruins of Mumbai, in the shattered ports of New York, humans striking back with everything they had, refusing to die quietly. Inside the bunker, Ethan spotted something on the long-range scanners, his face paling as he said, "Doctor, the flagship is moving. They're bringing the command ship down into the atmosphere. They're coming themselves." And for a moment, even the bravest souls felt a chill run down their spines. Dr. Torres turned slowly, her face hardening into a look of pure, burning determination, and said, "Good, let them come. It's time they learned what happens when you push humanity too far." Outside, the battle roared even louder, fire and smoke rising high into the dark sky, and for the first time since the invasion had begun, it was the aliens who were fighting for their survival, and it was the humans who were leading the charge. And as the massive alien flagship broke through the clouds, descending toward the battlefield like a dark god come to crush the last resistance, a strange and terrifying feeling grew in the hearts of every alien warrior, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, they had made the biggest mistake in their empire's long, bloody history by thinking Earth would be an easy conquest. The final showdown was coming, and there would be no mercy, no surrender, and no second chances, only victory or complete destruction. The ground trembled as the alien flagship touched down just outside the battlefield, its massive body casting a shadow so wide and dark that for a moment it felt like night had returned to the burning earth, and from its core, thousands of elite alien warriors marched out in perfect formation, their armor glowing with energy, their weapons humming with power, and at the front of them all stood Warlord Xarth, the ruthless leader of the empire that had once conquered hundreds of worlds without mercy. Inside the human command bunker, Dr. Torres stared at the live feed on the screen, her jaw tight, her eyes burning with focus, and beside her, Ethan loaded the last of the energy packs into his weapon, sweat dripping from his face as he said, "They've brought their whole command force. They think this is over." But Dr. Torres didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't hesitate. Instead, she activated a hidden console, revealing one last project, one that had been secretly developed by the last group of surviving engineers, scientists, and even children who had grown up in the ruins. And with a calm voice she said, "No, this is where everything begins." Outside, as the alien soldiers marched forward like machines, expecting the humans to scatter in fear, the skies above them suddenly cracked open, not from a weapon or ship, but from a sonic burst created by human towers secretly placed across the battlefield. Towers built from scrap, alien tech, and human genius. And as the sound echoed, the alien command structure's frequency was disrupted, their shields failed, and their troops' coordination collapsed into confusion. And that was the moment the final uprising began. From every corner of the battlefield, humans rose like fire, thousands of them charging out from tunnels, from behind wreckage, from collapsed buildings, and even from the forests, their weapons blazing, their screams filled with fury and hope, and with them marched the machines they had built, walkers made from alien parts, drones guided by hacked systems, and energy cannons powered by the very tech that once enslaved them. The battle that followed was unlike anything seen in the galaxy. Warlord Xarth fought with brutal strength, cutting down waves of fighters with his plasma sword, roaring like a beast, trying to hold back the tide of resistance. But for every human that fell, 3 more stepped up, because they were not just fighting for victory. They were fighting for their families, their future, and the very right to exist. Dr. Torres, now wearing armor made from a destroyed alien exosuit, stepped onto the battlefield with her command team, leading from the front, her voice in every radio, her commands saving lives, and every time she moved forward, humans followed her with burning belief, because they saw in her the spirit of something the aliens could never understand. The spirit of a free people refusing to be broken. In the middle of the chaos, Ethan spotted the alien command relay and charged it alone, dodging enemy fire, jumping through rubble, and finally planting a homemade EMP bomb right at the base of the alien beacon. And when it exploded, it sent a shockwave that fried half the alien systems instantly, causing ships to crash, weapons to shut down, and communication to collapse. The aliens panicked, retreating, falling back, but the humans did not stop. They pushed forward, reclaiming every inch of their ruined cities, every forest, every mountain, and for the first time since the invasion began, the sky above Earth filled not with enemy ships, but with captured ones flying human flags. Flags made from torn shirts, bandages, and burned cloth, symbols of survival, unity, and unstoppable will. At the edge of the battlefield, Xarth found himself cornered, his weapon broken, his armor cracked, and in front of him stood Dr. Torres, Ethan, Leah, and dozens of survivors, all aiming weapons at him. But it wasn't the weapons that broke him. It was their eyes, the fire inside them, the thing he had never understood and now feared more than death itself. "You thought we were helpless," Dr. Torres said, her voice steady as stone. "But you were wrong. It was your empire that was weak, because you never understood that humans don't give up, not even when we have nothing left." Xarth fell to his knees, not from injury, but from defeat. A kind of defeat deeper than any loss in battle, because in that moment he realized his empire had already crumbled, not just here, but across the galaxy, because the news of Earth's rebellion had already spread, and on every enslaved world, people were rising, using the same human ideas: unity, resistance, hope, to fight back. And as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks, shining down on the smoking battlefield, the humans stood victorious, not just over their enemy, but over fear, over despair, over extinction itself. They were no longer survivors. They were the spark that would light the fire of freedom across the stars.